There is a reason why so many relationships on planet Earth right now look as dysfunctional as they do. We're going to be talking about that today for a very important reason. We're talking about relationships of the false matrix and how the false matrix set your relationships up to fail. Romantic relationship with family, with friends, etc., all of them. The reason that we're going to be talking about that is because you are heading into a new paradigm. And as you head into that new paradigm, which is nothing more than the true organic matrix, the true organic creation template from which you originated, as you return to that, certain vibrational frequencies come into view that were unavailable before. So now, as the true matrix comes into focus, you can start connecting to this beauty called twin flame relationships. You can start connecting to this divinity called sacred unions. This is beyond the soulmate connection that we might have known before. In fact, the soulmate connection very often was very rife with fighting and triggering, and these were often very difficult, very karmic relationships even. And we can talk about that another time, but I want to talk about how it is that the false matrix set up the failure of all relationships, because when you understand this, a beautiful thing happens. Everything that is collapsing right now in the false matrix, imagine the false matrix falling down, kind of like debris crumbling down around you. The reason that is happening, because I know a lot of you are going, can't we just bypass this? Can't we just get there already to the true matrix? I've had enough of this. The reason why you don't get to fast forward through this is because this is the opportunity to face and reclaim the parts of you that got locked into darkness, parts of you that got locked into the false matrix. And you know, I asked in a previous video, shall I sugarcoat things for you guys? Like, is that comfortable or perhaps easier when I deliver information? And so many of you in the comment section were like, Kerry, just give it to me straight, baby. Just rip off the band-aid. Let's go. So today I am going to be doing that. I am going to be ripping off the band-aid for most of you. In the false matrix, you were serving a dark system. It's what the false matrix was. The false matrix was set up by a group of beings, some of them archons, some of them Anunnaki, because you always ask me, who are these dark gods or these dark lords? They want to call themselves gods, but they're not. Gods is really the wrong terminology. They're wannabe gods. They're mimics, trying to mimic the true source creator from whence they come. Because everything in creation comes from one creator. And many of us in the creation template took on roles such as the role of darkness, the role of light. Others of us took on a path where we would be both dark and light. Those who took on darkness became perverted and totally inverted by it. They became arrogantly attached to it. They became psychopathic with it. They began to have illusions and delusions of grandeur to such a degree that they began to despise the light, forgetting that they were light originally, rejecting that light, and in so doing, casting aside and pushing away their ability to do what light does, which is to create. Thus, they became engineers of reality. They became not creators as in the organic ability to create, but rather replicators or engineers or even manipulators, using AI as one means of creation and being controlled by AI as well, but also using humanity. And we're going to talk about that. They used humanity to feed off of. It's an important concept here because they were feeding off of the light that humanity emitted. This light that humanity emits becomes a fuel source to sustain them. They have what I would love to call a love-hate relationship with us, but it's codependent. That's perhaps the better word. They have a codependent relationship with humanity as much as they truly do despise humanity, these dark beings. As much as they engineered the false matrix. I said in a past video they created the false matrix and somebody corrected me. I think you understand when I'm using the limitation of the English language, there are going to be some words that you can nitpick apart, but I ask you not to do that. I ask you rather just to listen to the totality of the message. I know that you're all really intelligent, you're all adults, you can put this together for yourself. If I use the word creation, referring to the dark overlords, they're not creators. I've already established that. They are engineers, manipulators, right? So forgive me if it's just, English has its limitations. When you make something, you do call it creation. Nonetheless, we got that out of the way. We know that they're not organic creators, right? These very dark, psychopathic, wannabe gods, they were in this codependent and still are in this codependent relationship with light. Because remember, they can't sustain themselves. Not only can they not create, they cannot sustain themselves. So it's kind of like the way in which, I know this is a horrible example, please forgive me for using it. I am not implying anybody needs to be vegan when I say this, but the relationship that those dark ones have with human beings is much like human beings have with meat. It's just cattle. They don't really matter. They don't really have feelings. Who gives a toss about them? Just, put them in the queue to end their lives and become a fuel source. So there is this terrible side effect of living in the false matrix that many of us haven't come to reckoning with, and that is that we begin to mimic the behavior of the actual template that we live in. So think of the false matrix as a creation template, very distorted, very perverse, very malaligned. We begin to mimic that in the same way that we mimic the behavior of our parents. We mimic how we were treated in our childhood, in our future relationships. Of course, we can consciously redirect ourselves, we can consciously heal and consciously evolve, but until we do that, we are running on autopilot. That's important. When we run on autopilot, we land up blindly repeating the very same energy that we are entangled with. Now remember I said they're in this codependent relationship with us. They hate needing us. But they do in order to be a fuel source for them, totally disregarding humanity, thinking the worst of humanity. This is why they're so abusive. This is why they're such narcissists. This is why they've set up the whole system to be one in which humanity will always see themselves as wrong. Don't we do that? Don't we turn on each other and say, oh, you're human beings. Humans are terrible things. See, this is part of the grand design, always making themselves invisible and blameless, so that humanity, it's kind of like the ultimate narcissistic parent or the ultimate abusive parent, wherein humanity becomes so abusive towards themselves because they've been programmed to believe, I'm the bad guy here. I'm the one who keeps making mistakes here. I'm the one destroying the planet here, for example. I'm the one who keeps making wrong choices here. It's all me. That kind of thinking is a mimicry response. That is us having grown up in the false matrix. Important point here, when we divinely align back to the organic matrix from whence we come, what happens is that instead of having a trickle of that alignment, which we currently have, and think about it, that trickle of the God source, true God source creator alignment that we all have managed to maintain. It is that we go to when we love truly, that trickle. It is that trickle that we go to when we experience epiphanies or healing or divine miraculous moments. It is that trickle that we keep returning to and longing for. When we experience joy in whatever form. These are little echoes of that trickle of the original connection to God's source creator. What would happen when that's a flood? What would happen when that divine alignment to God's source creator is exactly in place again? Is no longer the trickle, but the flood and the flow and the full surround sound experience of being enraptured by, in harmony with, in union with God's source creator. If you were born to the organic matrix consciously and you lived there, something would happen, and that is you would feel a sense of wholeness, oneness, belonging. You would feel a sense of being in touch with and a part of everyone and everything that you see. The tree wouldn't possibly be separate to you. The person in pain couldn't ever be separate to you. You would understand coexistence in a whole new way because life would become more about what you experience and less about what you think. You would be living from the heart because you would be mimicking the organic matrix. That's how the organic matrix is wired. It is wired for harmony, love, respect. It is wired for non-interference, meaning through respect, every individual is free to do what every individual is going to do. You can see how we've got strands of that have leaked over but been utterly distorted here in the false matrix. And it is from that tiny strand of connection that tiny sliver of connection to the organic matrix that we all hold, that darkness has been feeding. There's more videos about this, and I will link them in the video description box for you. But darkness has been feeding on the trace of light that we've held. When the trace of light becomes a flood of light and your alignment is corrected, then something amazing happens, and that is that darkness can no longer feed on you and you stop being a fuel source. And it is for this reason that you do not have to shield yourself, because your light protects you. Your light is the frequency that is emitted from you naturally and organically that actually disturbs darkness, because you are what you eat. So when darkness feeds on you and you are in mal-alignment, that is eating light in a ratio that is agreeable to darkness. When, however, darkness attempts to feed on you and you are in alignment, I want to say it's kind of like it would trigger an allergy in them, because there's too much light. They cannot process that. They wouldn't know where to put all of that light, and it would begin to fry their circuitry, and they wouldn't be coming to you to be a fuel source. So can you see how plugging into the divine matrix is a self-healing, self-correcting system? But brought up in the false matrix as we were, mimicking the behavior of these very dark, distorted beings who saw themselves as the authorities, who saw themselves, positioned themselves even as gods. It led so many people to do exactly what they've done to other human beings, which is to use and abuse, to coerce, to manipulate others. People in the false matrix, those who are so enmeshed in the false matrix, who cannot even see that there is a true matrix coming into form, a true matrix coming into embodiment. And if they can see it, they will reject it and push it away. That's how enmeshed in the false matrix they are. Those people are coming undone because the false matrix is coming undone. And it is from the shards and from the debris of the false matrix that darkness gets reintegrated back into light. But there are those beings within the false matrix who still resist and reject and repel any such notion from them. And it is these beings who are coming apart. It is these beings who many of you will be unfortunate enough to come into connection with and into relationship with. Isn't it crazy how, as much as there's this longing for love, this longing for unity and wholeness, it's almost like an insatiable longing, because of course there's the insatiable longing for heaven, for connection to God's source consciousness, and the closest we can come is divine union in a relationship, at least in the physical form. It's why we crave it so much, because the memory is there. But what we keep creating is the disconnection. What we keep creating is from the old matrix template of pain and disconnection. So we create relationships where we experience isolation within ourselves, feeling cut off from a partner, feeling like a partner is controlling us, or perhaps even us as the individual in the relationship having the need to control the partner. So there is so much dysfunctionality. You can fill up the comment section for me, because you can explain it better than I can. For example, how you've been gaslit in relationships. This is a classic one of the dark overlords. They will always make it the human being's fault. Here's where you see those relationships of the false matrix mimicking the dark overlords. It's when you find people who will pull you down so that they can stand on you to be higher. You know that experience? I know you've had it. Or people who will say it's your fault when they don't want to take responsibility. And you know, there's lots of little red flags here where people's behavior doesn't quite align to integrity, doesn't quite look like they're playing in the realm of truth, but they appear. This is the golden word. They appear to be nice people. They appear to be good people. They talk the talk. They don't necessarily walk the walk, but they certainly say the right thing. So what do? We dismiss our intuition and we say things like, oh, you know, I was just being too sensitive. Meantime, the other person is exactly the one who is showing their true self and we're just ignoring it. And it's benign. It appears that way. It appears to be the smallest, most subtle behaviors that you kind of feel like, well, if I do notice that, I'm probably just throwing up things or being too judgmental and too critical, and I'm throwing up things that don't really need to be brought to the limelight. For example, recently in a comment section, I had somebody make fun of me and saying, I'm not being rude, but your hair looks greasy and you should go wash it. It happened to be on a day where I woke up out of bed with a message from the universe, grabbed my phone. I was actually in my pajamas. So if they wanted to make fun of me, I could give them plenty of ammunition to make fun of me. To be very honest with you, I hadn't even brushed my teeth. Do you know why? Being on a beauty channel is not really what I'm about. Giving you messages of love, light, and truth to align you to God, that's what I'm about. I couldn't have given a toss that my hair wasn't brushed. But she perceived my unbrushed hair for being oily. Maybe it was. I simply don't care. When I've got a message to give you, that supersedes my need to look or show up in a certain way. But this person in the comment section said, I'm not being rude, but ... and then continued to be rude. And that's a red flag behavior right there. That's exactly how people in the false matrix operate. You see, they don't come out with guns blazing attacking you. They come out as your friend. You look terrible. I'm only kidding. You know that kind of behavior. It's kind of passive aggressive. And then when you call them out on it, they say it's your fault. Oh, it's Carrie, because I did. I said, look, you're being rude. Then her response, or his response, I don't know whether it was a male or female, was, it's because you were bullied when you were a child. That's why you're being sensitive. You see, gaslighting. No. It's not me being rude. It's you being sensitive. More red flags. So this is the very subtle. You want to overlook this behavior in humanity, but they're unconscious. They're not self-aware enough to see this. And what's the remedy here? The remedy is the moment you take personal responsibility. That is the only way that you will evolve out of the false matrix. Because what do the dark overlords do? Look at what they do and do the opposite. If you want to align to the true matrix, what do? They blame. It's never their fault. It's always you. It's always the other person. It's never anything to do with their behavior. They are masters of being invisible and casting the light on you so that you think you're mad. So that you think you're the one with the issue. This is what they are utter masters at doing. It's almost imperceptible. So this is the kind of behavior that you're going to see sneaking in to what appears to be really beautiful relationships. Oh, I'll just overlook this. I'll just overlook that. And the next thing you know, you wonder why people can turn on you. Now, I spoke about appearances. Appearances are a very important part of how not to do relationships. And please, I'm not saying that you shouldn't take pride in your appearance. Many of you will know I love makeup. I really do. I love makeup because I'm an artist at heart. And when I can't get my hands on a canvas, believe me, my face becomes my canvas, right? I love to use color and I love the art of putting color together. It's a joy. It's a hobby for me. Is it, however, how I need to appear to you in order to get your acceptance? I'm sorry to say, but it really isn't. Appearances are supremely important. But here's what appearances are to me. Appearances are how you look on the inside. Because what most relationships lack is substance. They are substanceless. Then people say, I don't know why I feel empty. Don't know why I'm not fulfilled. Because, again, false matrix alignment, we've been brought up around glamour. We've been brought up that you can put all this carcinogenic, very toxic beauty products on your face, on your hair, male or female, doesn't matter. You can even wear clothes that were made in a factory where kids were paid 50 cents an hour or a day or who knows what, a bowl of rice at the end of it. You could pay top dollar, wear those clothes and be called fashionable. So we wore beauty on ourselves that was really rotten at the core. This is called a glamour, wherein appearances are very deceptive. It's exactly how the astral realm works. In the video where I described to you how entities show up, often very glamorous, not with gnarly, rotten teeth and grey clothes. That's not normally how they show up. They don't present themselves as dark. They present themselves as glamorous. This is a glamour. So we've been taught in relationships and in life to glamorize, which means to cover the truth, at which point your authenticity cannot show, and that's what beauty is. Beauty is when your authenticity shows. It's when it is revealed. It's when it exudes from you. That's beauty. Beauty exudes from a tree, from a dog, from a cat. It can exude from the air itself. It can exude from anything that your eyes can perceive it in. And the moment beauty is perceived, something responds. Something in you responds when I see your authenticity. But it is only my authenticity that can see yours and bring yours forth, because mine calls yours. This is the dance of true loving relationships. When authenticity calls forth authenticity, and then the attraction is magnetic, and now we're talking real fireworks, and now we're talking real passion, the likes of which are totally overlooked in that very superficial, glamorized world of the false matrix. That's how the false matrix set up relationships to fail. It made them all about your body size, your weight, your image, your makeup, your hair, your jewelry, your bank account, the car you drove, everything that is not you. That became the standard of beauty. When the standard of beauty is an expression of your connection to God's source consciousness and your ability to bring that connection into the body in such a way that it emanates from you, at which point you can show up with your hair unbrushed, you can show up with makeup done or not done, you can show up as you are, in rags or in riches. Your beauty would always show to those who had the eyes to see it. But to those plugged into the false matrix, they're not going to see it. They're going to belittle, they're going to shame, they're going to name, they're going to do all of that stuff. You know? And some of you will say, I have no doubt, some of you will say, oh, Kerry, were you triggered? Were you triggered by the woman regarding your hair? I was. And do you know what? It's okay to be triggered. Because isn't it important that there's a trigger that lets you know, oh, something's very off there? Do you see how even in our spiritual circles, we've interwoven judgment and shame where there should be opportunities for growth? Because that's what being triggered is. When you're triggered, you have an opportunity to grow. That's all it is. Bottom line, done. Don't read any more into being triggered than there is. It is an opportunity for growth. Every single dark experience in your path and every person who's brought darkness to you has brought an opportunity for you to grow. I grow every single day, and darkness has made me lighter and stronger, and it continues to do that every single day. That's the nature of the boomerang. There's a video called The Law of the Boomerang. When somebody shoots poison arrows at you, guess where the poison lands? Bam, back at them. When you can maintain your alignment. Do you want them to be hurt and wounded? Of course not. It's simply the nature of the universe. We've moved beyond karma, by the way. We've moved so far beyond karma. We're in cause and effect now. Karma was an old program of misery. It was a debt enslavement. It was something that you would never be free of. You would keep having to reincarnate over and over and over and over again, because the lifespans were never long enough to actually come to the kind of growth that you needed to overcome karmic debt. So you would always be enslaved to the false matrix. That's what karma was. We're now in cause and effect, where it's much more instant. This is one of the many places in which the true matrix is shining upon you. The organic matrix is revealing itself to you every single day. Don't turn your back on it. Don't ignore it. Reach your hand out for it, because it's reaching for you. Life wants to love you, but you've got to show yourself now. You've got to reveal your light now, and many of you have kept that light very tightly hidden, very safe. Not wanting to be visible to darkness, not wanting to be visible to attack, not wanting to be visible to those who could harm you, and yet life is going to keep pushing you to come to the place where your light is revealed. See how darkness always serves the light? Darkness is almost going to trigger you into shining more and more and more of your light. You can no longer hide it. Even though the false matrix set up every relationship to fail, because it was designed for misery. That was part of the fuel source that would have kept those dark ones very satisfied. As you disentangle from that false matrix, this is the final part of today's talk. something amazing happens. In the debris, you reclaim your shadow. And as you reclaim and reintegrate your shadow, guess what you find? You find parts of your light, your power, your wisdom that were disowned, that couldn't be actualized or owned in the false matrix because it was just too big for the false matrix to permit. So you had to put it somewhere, and that got put in the shadow. So when I talk about darkness, understand that it is not necessarily the evil that we understand darkness to be. Darkness is anything denied, disconnected from, pushed away, or rejected, right? So allow yourself to welcome back your shadow, knowing that in reintegration and reunion with that which is organically you, naturally you, you begin to behave much more like God's source creator consciousness and much less like the depraved, psychopathic, insane, power-hungry, dysfunctional wannabe gods that were the architects of the false matrix. Your light is free to shine through now. Check out the video description box where I'm going to leave more videos for you to watch that are going to give you a good background in today's conversation. I'll be back really soon because I've got lots more to talk to you about, but please do like this video. It really supports the video being pushed forward and gets other people to at least have the option to view this. Lots of love, everyone. Bye-bye for now.